I started my career, right? I was an engineer, like I think a lot of people in this room or any other room that we go to, right? Interestingly, I've never mentioned this to any podcast. I think that may give you, why I'm saying. Basically, we hacked my friend's car. When I was leaving the technology job, I just wrote to the founder of JustBook saying, can I do one in my area? So in Bangalore, right, the ecosystem was just starting. This was maybe 2009, I think. Yes. But what is missing is one more important thing is courage.
Yes, that's
So, or you are constrained saying, okay, I got my college, then I have to work for a job, then get married, have 2 gigs, buy a house. This is a classic Indian pattern. I'm saying US also this pattern exists. If you are wanting to start a business means then you need to also know how to make money, right? That's only it's a business, right? You can't say I have a crazy idea, I want to launch into exospace, so give me money, right? That's not going to work, right? Deep tech, we are long story short, we are 1980 Avinash Road, but returns will come much faster in 10 years. And that's the story that I try to make it relatable. I visited Kia's factory last month. The amount of automation at Kia's factory is like mind-blowing for me. If you have such a large plant of 4 lakh cars manufactured, number of employees are very limited because everything is automated. The other fundamental question to ask is what happens to people? This automation is one side is interesting in investing in technology, but will it have commercial value or not is not a necessary condition to do a PhD. Yes. So it's just like innovation economy. Slowly move from here to here to here. And when innovation happens, that's when you have an America, you have a Germany, and that is what we are going toward. I tell them, do you want to be part of that story?
Today I'm exciting to host our first backed VC who said yes, to be precise. So Mr. Vinod of Java Capital. So thank you hosting Vinod here at Frigate Studio. You are the first customer for Frigate Studio. Thanks for that as well. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Tamil. Pleasure to be here and happy to be the first guest at Frigate's studio. And also happy that, we've been part of your journey, acknowledge that. And thank you. Look forward to some exciting talk today.
Yeah. Sure. So the idea, because see, I've seen you, I guess, from 2021. Okay, so we started, and I pinged you in January 2022. And then you said we follow each other and link Twitter, and that's how the conversation start, right? Because I never know any other deep tech investors since Frigate's inception. So tell me about that. So why deep tech? Before that, let's get into your personal journey. Then you can connect the dots right from there
To deep tech.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
No, I think there is a very organic story, if you ask me honestly. When I started my career, right, I was an engineer, like I think a lot of people in this room or any other room that we go to, right? I studied engineering and I wanted to do something, in technology. So first job was, writing code for video processors and image processors for mobile phones.
So sorry to interrupt. You are EC engineer, communication.
Yeah, I'm an electronics and communication engineer from Bangalore at MS Ramaya. So I was a nerdy geek, if you wish, right? So I used to write the college newsletter for technology. I used to participate in all sorts of, quizzes, competitions. I think I was like very, very competitive. Let me put it that way, right? And also was doing projects which were like hands-on. For an engineer. Interestingly, I've never mentioned this to any podcast. I think that may give you, why I'm saying. My last year's college project was something called as Andasya Asta. Basically, we hacked my friend's car. Hacked in a sense, we connected some circuits and devices. And for a women, right, you had a remote control in the hand. Because that time there was an incident of where a driver had taken advantage of a woman in a car. We said, how do you solve that? And so we had designed the hardware, everything, and if they press a button in the hand, it will disable the engine. It'll stop the engine, cut it, and it'll put all the indicators to go blare in a public place. So once it does that, generally it'll attract attention,
Yeah,
so people
exactly.
can, and also it'll send an SMS to their family member and
Nearby
to the
police
nearest police
station.
station.
Okay.
This was our college year
Oh,
final year project.
okay.
So I was very interested in how the world works and how do you build the
Okay.
whole world, right? That was my first, stories in a way. And then I spent like 5 years writing code for the startup called Imused. That company got acquired. And that journey, I learned not just about wanting to work for somebody.
Oh,
It's always good to, how do I put it? Like non-linear outcomes.
okay.
So you work for a company, you get salary. When you invest in a startup or you start your own startup, you have non-linearity. That
Exactly.
means you're not dependent on, say 20,000 rupees per month salary. Rather, it may come slowly and in the long run, but when the outcome comes, right, it's huge.
Yes.
That's the non-linearity that I was starting to chase at that time. And I used to invest in stocks and all that. I just started learning basically on the role. And from there, I realized at some point I wanted to VC because there's a book I was reading called Black Swan.
Black Swan. Okay.
Black Swan.
Swan. Okay.
Swan by Nicholas Taleb.
Okay.
In that book, right, strangely, he mentions about controllable.
Israeli guy or?
Yeah, he's a famous Jewish guy.
Okay.
He talks about controllable black swans. So black swan is like what happened yesterday, for example, right? Nobody anticipate, or what happened when COVID happened. Those are black swans. You can't predict.
Yes.
So where are places where you can predict black swans? They usually call this as blue swans or something like that, controllable ones. But where do you find them? It's very hard. If you know what is happening, then you will make money, right?
Yes.
It's like stock market. If you know it's going up, then you'll make money. This is exactly like that. Basically, it's the information asymmetry problem.
Okay.
So one of the areas he mentions in the book is venture capital.
Oh.
And I read that and I said, look, this is an interesting place. And I was working in a startup.
Yeah.
That company got acquired. I could see people making phenomenal outcomes.
So it's in your first company?
Yes. Imused,
Okay.
yes. That got acquired and became Arisent eventually, and then eventually sold to.
Okay.
So basically, I became a part of Arisent after the acquisition happened.
Arisent is one of the top engineering services.
Yeah, they used to do engineering, software, bulk of actually. So they acquired 8 companies, including the one I was working, and it made it into a single company called Arisent. So that journey, gave me a flavor of startups, technology, and then I was reading books, and the Black Swan. And then I realized, VC is an interesting place, and my managers and all made money through stock options. I was like too early for that, and it's like, oh, this is a crazy idea to do. And then I started following this curve of startups, non-linearity. And the second job, I just joined another startup called Just Books, which was incubated at NSRCL by a Madurai founder. He's from Madurai, NIT Trichy, I think. And then he moved to Mumbai, and then I joined him as one of the early guys there. And it was a good journey. Look, not all journeys are successful, right? So that's what I would say of that. But it was a great learning. We set up like almost 60 plus outlets in 13 cities. I did it in Coimbatore also. We had like a couple of outlets that time.
Where?
One was in Racecourse, the other one was in Sai Baba Colony.
Okay.
But by then, but it was not like performing as wish, we would want.
Private library kind of.
Private library chain. It was kids used to come enjoy. I miss it now. When I had it for 7-8 years, I mean, I didn't feel it. Now I just have to buy books on my own. So that's it. So that was my second startup. Great learning. Not phenomenally successful there.
So. Sorry to interrupt. So first, Imused, who you are? You are a coder or a marketer?
I was called a DSP engineer, digital signal processing.
That's
like a very
easy guy.
Okay, but like, see, look, that was a designation. But after it became Arisent, right? Everybody became software engineers. I used to feel bad. You were called a DSP engineer, and suddenly you've just been called another software. I mean, end of the day, you all write software, right? It's not like this, look. But of course, you manipulate different things in the head. That's it. But it was a crazy experience being an engineer, but a lot of people go with thinking, you will touch and feel hardware every day. But that doesn't happen, even if you are a chip designer, right? You are still doing it on the system only, right? It's not like you're touching anything physically. So but that is one curve. Then I moved to startups. So this technology is important for why I do deep tech today.
I understand, yeah.
And I wrote a bunch of research papers then, those are published, and I believe I still have the capability to read research papers. I can spend time reading, and
because decoding is tough from
correct. So if you know how to read research papers, you know what technology is possible, not possible. I've spent a lot of time doing that. So that actually helps me today to like look. If I look at a company in deep technology, I can go back and read the paper and say, look, what is real, what is possibly unreal, also
Understand.
to an extent.
Okay.
That is one advantage I have.
Okay.
But even the bigger advantage, right? As you know, tech, right? A lot of people know technology engineers. But what people don't know is business and marketing. Then
Exactly.
that is the second problem. So fortunately for me, right, I wanted to learn business. That's why I quit Tyrosint eventually, and then went to Just Books. There, I didn't do writing code. I completely shifted to business development and marketing. So I ended up as a head of marketing for Just Books.
Okay.
So you have technology. My second stint
Like
is
at the age of 23 is something.
yeah, I was 23 to 26, maybe I was at Harrison for about
Oh,
four,
okay.
5 years.
20
26 to about 30, 31, maybe. I was at Just
Just
Books
Books.
doing business development and marketing.
I guess you own a franchise as well.
I ended up taking two franchise. Actually, first I bought the franchise actually.
Oh, okay.
When I was leaving the technology job, I just wrote to the founder of Just Books saying, can I do one in my area? So that's how I set
So
up.
how you found Just Books?
That's also a good, interesting story. So in Bangalore, right, the ecosystem was just starting. This was maybe 2009, I think.
Yeah.
So I used to attend these startup events that time.
Oh.
There was an organization called Head Start,
Yeah,
which
Head
used
Start
to
we
do,
know, yeah.
correct. That time it was very
Yeah.
small. They used to run it out of IMB Bangalore. And the professor there called Suresh Bagotula, he used to do these sessions for startups, like, come everybody, let's talk kind of stuff. That's when he mentioned, they are incubating a startup called Just Books.
Oh,
In one of the
NSRCL.
NSRCL and Startup Saturday. They used to call it Startup Saturday, which used to happen every second Saturday.
Okay.
And I used to go through this sessions.
Okay.
And as life would come, I also ended up as a speaker for Startup Saturday many, many years later.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
It's a circle.
Yeah.
But that's how I found Just Books. I wrote to the founder. He was like, who are these young guys, who saying, I want to do a franchise. He didn't actually respond a couple of mails.
Okay.
Then I just kept on pushing, and finally he said, okay, fine, come, let's talk. Because you have to invest money and you have to manage. I was just like, out of college 4 years, 4 or 5 years at the max. Then finally, they believed, they will do something, and I did an outlet near Malleshwaram, closer to home. And that outlet, my wife was eventually running, and that was like fun experience. Eventually, to run that for about 7, 8 years, we ran
Oh, okay.
that outlet. And after franchise, I joined quickly in less than 6 months. I joined as the head of marketing or business development. I started as a business development guy, and then ended up as the head of marketing.
Oh.
So that transition was interesting. I think that transition helps today. I can identify numbers. I can see balance sheets. I can see finances better. I actually have done 5 years of sitting and growing the company
Exactly.
there. So that I can understand if somebody says, look, the pain of growing a startup, right? I can clearly understand. So, and the joke used to be that we had finding so hard to find our office space. Every office space we used to go, we used to build a toilet there. So we built more toilets than BBMP, we used to tell, because we used to keep shifting, but there was to be no toilets there in that. So those are small problems I'm saying, when you do a startup, right, you get those kind of issues. So we did those issues. Yeah, I mean, interesting problems we faced. Yeah.
Okay. So, out of curiosity, again, I'm asking because he's a Tamil guy. So, how he started Just Books? So,
Oh,
why?
how he started? Huh?
Yeah, why?
Well, I think he worked for like almost some 20 years at Oracle
Okay.
LifeLex. Then I think one morning, probably that's what he says. He's done some podcasts. You should listen to it. At least one day they realized, they just wanted to start a neighborhood library because there was none in Whitefield. So they just set up one small family library kind of stuff in Whitefield. And then, people started asking, oh, can I also do it in my neighborhood? It's very organic.
Okay.
So another person said Belendor, another person said, then I want to do it. And then slowly people started doing franchising.
Okay.
That is how Just Books happened. That's what the founder says.
Okay. Whether it is funded or?
It was funded by NSRCL and some more other angel investors.
Okay.
But yeah, that is where it moved. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my stint, business and technology.
So, started as a techie, read Black Swan, then started as a entrepreneur, then an entrepreneur, more of a business guy.
Correct.
So that's
yes, that's the so far story. Yeah.
So, okay, past there. So from that, okay, from Just Books, why to Kalari? So, or is there any other gap? Is there?
Yeah, there is a interesting gap. Not too many people notice actually.
I noticed that.
Yeah, okay. So after I left Just Books, right?
Yeah.
But while I was doing Just Books, right, I also started investing.
Oh.
Small checks.
Yeah, Daily Ninja.
Daily Ninja, Trell, Cardback, or like slowly, little. Before I was my 30 years, right, I had already invested in my first startup. Little bit.
Yeah.
My theory was very different actually, to invest in startups was my wife will beat me every time if you say this, right? So we were thinking, should we buy a house or what to do?
Yeah.
So I said, anyway, my grandfather has left a nice house for us
Oh.
in Bangalore.
Oh.
I said, let's take some risk and, we'll do the startup. I'm sure she still does thinks, wrong decision to do at the time. So that is how I started investing in little bit in startups instead of, trying to do a house like most people do at that age. I think that turned out good. I'm hoping, she'll be a better judge of it. That is how I started investing in startups. Like at 29 or 30, right? I wrote my first check to a startup. And this black swan thing, right, is still at the back of the mind. I'm doing just books to learn, how startups work.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't want to go and start away say, look, I want to be a VC, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to know how is it
Business
to
work.
run
Yeah.
startup also, right? So that's how just books 4 5 years there, and the thread is still there. The black swan thread will continue. I do angel investments. And then after Just Books, I quit and I tried another startups, multiple ideas actually.
Okay.
I try a food idea, I try a mobility idea. None of it works with another college friend. Spent almost like a year trying various ideas and then, decided, it's not going anywhere. Went to Goa with family one day and said, "Boss, I think we are done. This is not working." It was like genuinely was not working. And then I said, "Let me find jobs." But I was clear what to do then.
Yeah.
I only wanted to try and figure out if I can go to VC. And so temporarily I was consulting some startups in between. And finally, Kalari announced openings. Then I actually wrote to almost all the VCs at that time.
Okay. Okay. So, who are the top VCs at that time? So, it's maybe 2000.
Yeah, I think very few. This was 2015.
Okay.
Okay, let's say 2015 or 2016 mid.
Sequoia, SoftBank.
So you are Sequoia,
SoftBank.
not to SoftBank. I mean, I think I didn't. SoftBank was in the news, but not. It's too big. Yeah, SoftBank even then was. So see, I'll tell you who all. At least I remember. I mean, not that everybody. I did say Stellaris had just started. Kalari was, of course, there. Axel was there. Then Nexus was there. Then there was this famous one called Sama Capital.
Yeah, Sama.
So about 6, 7, Tamal, that's all.
Oh.
You see, if you remember top of the line, and there was this Red Bus investor, I forget the name, Seed Fund or something like that.
Seed Ventures.
Seed Ventures. And this Ganesh's fund called Growth Story.
Chirate was there?
Chirate was there in another form. It was called IDG Ventures.
Yeah.
That's why the name is not coming
Iron
quickly.
Pillar? Iron Pillar?
No, Iron Pillar and all probably was just started after that. In 2016, I was just started. I think. So these are the top names. Let's say I would have written to about like 8 to 10 names max.
How about the angel networks? Mumbai Angels, Chennai Angels, those
They were there.
They were there.
They were there. So Bloom was there. Bloom, all these angel networks had started by then. Okay, Indian Angel Network was there. Then Mumbai Angel Networks. Then Chennai Angel Network. All these were there. So I wrote to most of them, and then eventually, Kalari was, generous enough to recognize that I can do something. That's how I got into Kalari, and then spent another 4 5 years there. What I spent at Kalari was that I was trying to see which areas that I am interested. See, Just Books, right, is a consumer company.
Yes.
I understand consumer DNA very well. I have done marketing.
Okay.
And here I have an engineering background.
You invested in some retail kind of things also.
Correct. Exactly. So I understood consumer well. So I was chasing that. But what I realized, right, I can do consumer personally, but it's a competitive space. Because everybody wants to do consumer internet, especially at that time. So at Kalari, my focus was largely, to do SaaS, deep tech. It is a natural evolution. It's not like somebody told me go and do deep tech or something. I think it's because of what I did in the past. Naturally, I ended up, moving towards deep tech and SaaS. I also did a little bit of consumer, but more this is where my interest was.
So whether we can literally say you are one of the pioneers in deep tech in India, Kalari, is it?
I mean, I wouldn't want to say pioneers and all. I think pioneers should also produce success, I feel, I think we were early. That much I can acknowledge, right? We were early. Agnikul was presented at Kalari in 2018-19. The rocket was there and we had conducted a deep tech day, actually. I think that probably was one of the first events only focused on deep tech in maybe 18. So Agnikul was present there. So then there were other battery companies like Log9, bunch of them that we had seen at ISC. So we had started looking at it. That is the point I would say, it was starting to take off deep tech. And I was involved there. And then eventually when I stepped out, that's how it became like clearly deep tech was a big part of whatever I was trying to do there. Yeah.
So is there any other VCs
Hmm.
who were deeply interested or invested in deep tech while you were Kalari days?
Yeah, there are a few of them.
Okay.
So I think Five Ventures,
Oh,
then Speciality had started. Then we are working
Vishesh. Yeah,
closely. Yeah,
okay.
we started.
Okay.
We are working with them
Okay.
closely. Then there were only few guys, I would say. Like there are hardly countable by the
Okay.
fingers. Then yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So because there is a question I thought to ask, but I guess I got the answer. But again, I should,
Hmm.
because for the viewers. So there is a difference, right? There is a PhD project,
Hmm.
right? Because all the deep techs predominantly
Starts from
from
there.
there.
Yeah.
Any other research paper? Because I know Agnikul, Replane,
Hmm.
everything. Because all the IITM startups are from Chatya's,
Hmm.
right? So how you kind of differentiate between a PhD paper and a startup?
See, I think if you have to put it right, say PhD, right? How do they even identify the problem?
Yeah.
If you notice, right,
Yeah.
they are searching at the extremes
Yes. Yes.
of what is already commercialized or already invented or even researched.
Yeah.
They are, what is the point of a PhD is that you have researched something which nobody else has done before, and you're going to the edge of something and then solving and saying, this is my insight,
Yeah.
and then you're presenting that in, like, I think it's like, if you have a small ball, it's a dot in the ball, that is a PhD problem
Exactly.
classically,
Go
right?
deeper.
Go deep, and
Yes.
that is a
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
That means that problem, it is good to find a solution because human beings are inherently curious, and that curiosity is a PhD in some sense,
Yes.
right? You find a deep problem and your insights and come, but will it have commercial value or not is not a necessary condition to do a PhD.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You solve the
Exactly.
problem, it's
Yes.
not a necessary condition.
Yes.
But if you're doing a deep tech startup, right, yes, you need to find a problem which is deep enough, needs technical depth, engineering, all that.
Yes.
But it also has to have a commercial
Yes.
angle to it.
Exactly.
If there is no commercial angle, right, I will not be able to invest, right? So our identification of deep tech is not about only the problem, but that the problem solves something when somebody will be willing to pay for it.
Yes.
I think that bridges the difference between, say, a PhD researcher versus what a deep tech startup or a founder will have to look at
Yes.
it very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I'm stressing on the question again. So see, I'm a PhD.
Huh.
Okay.
Yes.
But I do businesses before as well. But because all the technocrats, they are not good at selling. That's a
That's a general
myth.
notion,
Yeah.
or
That's a,
yeah.
how you differentiate the founder?
See, look, for us to differentiate, right? One way to think is, you see, have they shown any signs in childhood of doing some things? You can
Exactly.
ask them
Yeah.
those questions, or like if you are interested in business beyond just writing code all day long, right? Then you would have gone to some things,
Yes.
or you would have personal passion. Also, is an interesting way to figure out.
Okay.
Like how I see myself, right? If I was just doing engineering and writing code forever, then I would have never learned business,
Yes.
right? So I wanted to learn. That's why I moved.
Mm.
But today, people can learn. That is one way. For me, right, if actually the founder can sell a good story, forget about sales. If he can
Exactly.
tell a good story, right, he or she
It's already sold.
is
You
already
are already
selling.
sold to them.
Correct. Very few people are able to tell a good story.
Yes. Yes.
And that is where you're saying that, right? Look, they are very technical and they don't do any sales. You should know how to do storytelling.
Exactly.
And storytelling comes some way by practice or some way by reading.
Yes.
If you read books, you end up becoming a storyteller,
Yes.
or you listen to a story and then you start telling those
Okay.
story. But one thing I am careful when I'm evaluating founders, I don't want story to be just a myth, right? I want reality also. It's good to have a storyteller, which is a sales skill,
Yes.
but you need to eventually. But I also keep telling this to founders, right? You are if any human being, right, is a salesperson. If you want to find a girlfriend in college, how are you going to do it? You're going to dress up, you're going to say, look, I'm the boss. You're doing that, right? That means
Yes.
you are selling
Yes.
yourself in some
Exactly.
form. I think having that ability to convert, it's a relationship, right? So somebody is there and you're talking to them and understanding what are they thinking, and that is sales.
Yes.
And that is, people are doing. It's just
Okay.
the levels at which people want to
Okay.
do becomes capable founder versus just being a technology person.
So now I got a answer for the question, why you invest in deep tech, right? So then again, I'm a hardware engineer as you, because I am from mechatronics. But still I see India, because since childhood I used to say, like, turn the product and see made in China, made in
Mhm.
Japan that time,
Correct.
okay, or Taiwan. So then finally in 2000s we think like made in China is useless, right? It's cheap. It's
It's
cheap.
cheap, so we assume it's
Yeah,
useless.
useless.
Yeah.
But right now, while we are into manufacturing, real manufacturing, that's why I see the powerhouse of China,
Hmm.
because in China you can get all the type of products.
Correct. We were buying cheap, that's all.
Yeah, that's it. Because why it made cheap is because of the Chinese phones at that time.
Correct.
That noise was like,
Hmm.
so that's the first time. So how you see that? Because even Frigate we started as addressing Indian customers, thinking we'll address Indian, but right now we are into predominantly exports. Okay,
Hmm.
because that's where we are trying to solve the real problem, right? So how you see this? Because still now we have, say, Reliance is contributing to 15% of the manufacturing exports in India with respect to industrial components, I'm saying. Then Tata or Bajaj or Mahindra or some jewelry maker. So you can, some jewelry maker is exporting close to, say, at least he's contributing 3%.
Hmm.
Okay, from Gujarat, I guess, Gujarat or Rajasthan. So how you see this? Whether these deep tech startups in India, which you are investing, so what is the scenario? Whether you are looking at Indian GTM or global GTM, or how it is?
Someone, one interesting aspect to that when we invested in Frigate, also we had this thesis called the China Plus One thesis,
Yes,
and the China Plus One thesis originated during the
COVID.
COVID time in a way, and then Trump's previous, he was also
Exactly.
pushing policy, and then COVID is what originated. So our view was that when we are investing in a China Plus One thesis, the GTM is not necessarily India.
Okay.
It has to be eventually. Because see, you're saying you're competing with China, right? You're not saying, I'm competing with existing vendors in
Yes,
India or
yes, yes.
something, right? So I think that thesis was very clear for us to say, look for companies which can act as a replacement for some of the products that's being manufactured by China, including us also, right? Because we were importing, and even now also we import a large
Yes.
amount of products from China, right?
Yes.
So we thought, that is an interesting thesis because of the action. And that is a clear export oriented GTM whoever was focusing, right? And that was a strategy for us to go and say, look, let's do toys. If somebody is doing engineering, all that. We've invested, I think, maybe more than a couple of companies
Yes, same space.
in the same space. So we believe, that was the real direction for us to go at that time. I think it still continues, right?
Okay.
Even now, we still have enough opportunities, I think, to do the China Plus One thesis
Okay.
to go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So coming back again, stressing on the same question. For example, if Agnikul is there, Eplane is there, and other product companies are there. So whether you convinced that they will make it in India and sell it in India, or like whether they pitched it in global GTM as well.
See, any deep tech company that I've seen,
Okay.
on day one, it is very clear you can't only sell in India.
Okay. Got
It
it.
has to be global play. There are
Okay.
two other reasons for that.
Okay.
Because you are building innovation and it's
Okay.
not a, what you call, a closed market, right?
Yes. Yes.
See, if you are the best one in building rockets, wherever globally you are, people are going to come and
Yes. Yes.
buy from you. In deep tech, right? That is the nature.
Okay.
See, unlike, let's assume, a quick commerce company.
Yes.
Quick commerce company, you have to sit and execute
Yes.
in a market, then only you are going to make money. But in case of especially B2B technology, engineering, or deep tech, people can buy the product and
Okay.
take it out, right?
Okay.
If you are a motor manufacturer, it doesn't matter if you are manufacturing in Tirupur or if you're manufacturing in Coimbatore versus you're manufacturing in some crazy place in Germany, right? It doesn't matter. By the guy, a person who's buying, he's going to just take the motor out of wherever is the best price and the best quality for that
Understand.
person, right?
Yes.
So I think that big difference is that, like, versus startups which need that in market which is captive versus you have to compete globally. For deep tech, it's always been day one you have to think global.
Okay.
There's no way you can think locally because your competition is global from
Okay.
day one.
Okay. Got it. So how there is a difference between there are a lot of things in deep tech itself, right? You have electrical EV and systems, subsystems. How you different? Is there any kind of thesis behind that as well?
So I think so. Initially, when we started, right, there were not too many thesis directional that we were trying to do. But as we moved to Fund Two, right, I think it's become clearer where to invest. So
Okay.
in Fund Two, we've done semiconductor, we've done aerospace, we've done materials, we've done resilience,
Yes. Yes.
climate
Climate tech.
resilience,
Yeah.
energy management. So that was all in fund.
Submaterial light speed photonics.
Lightspeed is a semiconductor. So we've identified themes within, technology,
Okay.
like about 6, 7 themes that we did in Fund 2. As we go to Fund 3, right, we've identified more themes now.
Oh.
We want to do quantum, for
Next
example,
thing, yeah.
we want to do bioengineering, we want to do things like advanced materials, synthetic biology, all those newer areas that are emerging in the next fund.
Okay.
So I think we have themes. We just want to capture across those themes as much as possible, like we've done in this fund. Now it's become a much more oiled machine than it was in Fund 1. Now we know, where to look for, what is happening in the world, plus what kind of research is happening in the country also, right? You can align yourself to those theses. For example, semiconductor, you take an example, right? Government has done a semiconductor mission. That means there's going to be more capital chasing it. That means more people will start, and it's a good time to kind of align. Same thing with quantum mission. You also need to watch out for what is happening in the research space, what's happening in the country, but what is the need of the country also to an extent. And that is wherever the need is, government is going to pump in a little more capital and encourage. You try and align yourself along those directions, then you will get the right thesis, is our view. So that is what we've done, in terms of where to go and, invest in companies.
But again, out of curiosity, again, these deep tech companies takes a lot of time, unless you are a consumer tech or a retail or enterprise tech for that matter, right? How you kind of, because their GTM maybe kind of stressed a lot, right? So how you kind of validate and how you convince your LPs as well in that case?
See, I think there is one myth that deep tech means it will take more time than traditional tech. That's in India. But my view has been that look at any traditional technology company. Take like Zomato, started in 2009, listed in some 2022. Take Swiggy, started in 2013, listed only now. That means it's taken. In India, right, traditional tech itself takes more than 10 years to go to listing, I'm saying. I'm saying if you are comparing the US market data versus India market data, you might find a difference, definitely, even in traditional tech. From an India traditional tech or deep tech, I don't think so there's a difference. We need the same time, I feel. I think it's about the market's maturity and the amount of friction in India that you take more time than what a US company will take. Or a developed market company take. So I think my myth is that I think in India you are deep tech or traditional tech or consumer tech, you'll take the same time. That's how I would put. But rather US will happen a little more faster versus India. I think that is where I have my thesis on, in terms of exits for deep tech or any tech.
I guess it's like a mirage, right? So, for example, Zomato, we know since last 3 years.
Exactly.
But we don't know where it is, when it is founded.
So what I tell my LPs, right, I have a slide which I've taken US data, which clearly shows deep tech, life sciences are actually delivers exits faster than traditional tech.
Understand.
In US, it's already doing. In India, we are very early in the deep tech cycle. We only started deep tech like maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago max. So we go through a cycle, then we will have more data points to say, look, are we better than traditional tech, or are we better than the US cycle, or we are worse than the US cycle? My sense is we should not have a big difference between traditional tech exit timeline versus deep tech exit timeline. At least I'm seeing it in some of my companies itself. Yeah.
So as again a researcher, right? In my point of view, I'm seeing a lot of very deep tech companies in your in our portfolio, right? So really, I want to know how you pick those. If you can share those insights.
So I think I would say you keep talking to a lot of people. That is the first thing. Sometimes choices come through serendipity, and all of us are keep going to research institutions and ISPs and use our networks. We are not trying to pick each company. We're trying to look for a theme. Like semiconductor is a theme. So you're talking to semiconductor companies. Space tech is a theme. So we're looking for space tech companies. Climate and this t-shirt we are wearing climate, right? So we're looking at what is happening in climate in climate. That is how those companies are coming, by looking at a larger theme and saying, let's go after the theme. Which are the companies doing in that theme? And then you talk to a lot of companies in that particular theme, and then one or two you end up investing. And that is how it kind of boils down to an extent.
So you are like very closely work with IIScs, IIT.
Yeah, we keep visiting them. I see IIT Bombay, all these places, right, where deep tech is happening is starting to be very visible now.
Okay.
So you keep in touch with some of those people, sign up in MOUs with.
Okay.
So we don't want to look at consumers. So we also put everything on the website saying, please don't write to us if you are a consumer tech. If you're a deep tech, climate tech, or an enterprise, that's the only reason you need to write to us. So our filtering process also becomes easier.
Understand.
And that theme then, starts continuing, and you get, it's like how do I put it? It's a virtuous cycle also, Tamil. You do good, right? You keep getting good stuff.
Exactly. Yes.
Like if people recognize Java as a deep technology climate investor, then founders also keep coming to us like that.
Yes.
And that is how the cycle perpetuates.
Yes, because word of mouth.
Word of mouth starts to spread. So today, right, I'm not doing marketing and all, right? So people come to us and ask, so it's become normal. But there are times when I have to chase for deals. So that is how, it works at least. So that's how we've identified areas and then go after those companies.
So I'm coming to the LP side. So it's also tough on that side as well to convince, right? So because most of the, I don't know, I'm out of curiosity, I'm asking. So most of the LPs doesn't understand because they are so how you convince them as well? So is there any kind of but how is the market right now? Whether they understand these kind of companies?
Yeah. So if you look at our LPs, right, a lot of them are my colleagues from my first technology company. A lot of them, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
That is an advantage. They already understand. So I don't need to convince on the deep tech piece of it, luckily, those pieces. But there are also other investors who don't fully understand, what is happening. For them, right, my views are like two things that I kind of put. I have now I have evolved, I would say, like I also have learned over the 5 years what to tell. First thing, I go play a nice video of demonstrating all our companies.
Okay.
And they see our companies, there'll be a rocket company, they see the video.
Yes.
And they just like the video and they say, oh, now they know, okay, look, even before I tell them anything, they know what I invest in. There'll be a Lightspeed Semiconductor, there'll be some videos. Whichever portfolio has good videos, I just put them.
Agnikul is more than enough.
Yeah, so Agnikul's video will be one of them. So I put those videos and people look at it and say like, okay, they're doing something which is technology, which is deep, then my next question is, why should somebody invest in this deep technology, right? Then I tell them, look, we've been investing in consumer, we've been investing in other areas. If you want, first is there's an India growth story, and this capture, India can't be just writing code for, US every time, right? That is the first evolution. I tell them, like, we had IT services.
That has stopped already.
That is almost, no, it's not stopped. People will still make money, but it's happening it's happening on its own,
It's kind of saturated.
It's saturating and it's happening. Then you have GCCs, then you have product companies like your
Fresh
products. That's another wave. The third wave is innovation.
Yes.
And that is what we're trying to do. I am telling any country which evolves in GDP, right, or per capita income, will slowly move from here to here to here. And when innovation happens, that's when you have an America, you have a Germany. And that is what we are going towards. I tell them, do you want to be a part of that story? We're going to the next story. Do you want to be a part of it?
Who owns the IP?
Who owns the IP? Do you want to be part of that India story, which is like innovation economy? And I think people who are aspirational, Tamil, they will generally say, look, I want to be a part of that story in some form or another. It's like, I give this example, if I have to give you in Coimbatore, right? I say, look, in 1980, you bought land in Avinashi Road, right? It's like that. Deep tech, we are...
Long story short.
In long story short, we are 1980 Avinashi Road, but returns will come much faster in 10 years. And that is the story that I try to make it relatable, at least. Yeah, and that's what I sell to my LPs, and hopefully some of them buy, and that's what so far it's happened. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's nice.
Anecdote. Yeah. In Trichy, I have to identify which road. I don't know yet. Well,
you can identify this road.
The road where your office is there. Yeah. Okay.
Because you can. Yeah. I'll talk to about the real estate. Okay. So coming back to the IP part.
Okay.
So whether you will only invest if they have the IP?
See, I think it's IP is like become like in our companies, if you look at, right, most of them have IPs, especially if they are deep technology companies. You take any company in our portfolio, if it's not like enterprise or marketplace, we have IP. We don't need to even go and look for IP. They have IP. You have, if you take an Agnikul, you take an Urja, you take Lightspeed Semiconductors, all of them have IP already. So it is like a default mechanism that our deep technology companies will have some IP or
Yes.
So that's become like standard. So we don't even say, look, oh, I'm searching for IP. Tell me, show me your patents. We just ask how many patents you have, or how many provisionals, or how many you're filing.
Understand.
But when we evaluate, only we know that these companies will make IP for sure.
Okay.
So
Okay. So let's get back to the larger view. Okay. So right now we spoke about Indian ecosystem on deep tech, right? Still, we have not discussed about the early stage and what are late stage companies. We'll come back on that. So how you see, because I know, because I've been to Europe, Israel and stuff like that, I see lot of engineering to be done in India. If frank, like Sweden or see Israel. So how you deep tech has evolved overall, unlike Apple or something. So is there any kind of deep tech companies you personally love global level, at the global level?
So, okay, that's a very interesting thing. I've not had that question, so I'm just thinking now on the fly. See, deep tech, one is about system level complexity or like individually somebody innovating. I mean, recently I was seeing one company. It's not like aspirational, but I keep looking what is happening in the US. There's a company which is launching satellites by spinning.
Oh,
Gravitational.
yeah.
You spin it and then put it and launch it at a particular time through the tube. It seemed interesting. I'm saying from interesting
the
things, I keep
circumferential force or something like
correct.
that.
Yeah, they're pushing the centrifugal
Sorry.
force.
Yeah.
So they're using that, and I mean, I never thought that's another interesting one I recently have seen is skimming on the water surface and travel.
Oil skimming robots are
Not robots, transport. So
transport.
they are like maglev on the sea.
Understand? Yes. Okay.
They're trying to skim on the surface, but go on the surface of the seas.
Okay.
So couple of companies.
Okay.
I mean, which is one company which generally hits me hard or something like that. Okay, I'm not able to quickly tell you. I keep seeing so many companies. There's not one company, but I like bunch of companies in like the portfolio of Lux Capital in the US.
Oh, okay.
Then other VC which I like is this thing called DCVC.
Okay.
So these companies that they have done, I like a lot of them. Yeah. Sometimes the use cases are like nuclear waste, how to prevent radiation, but phenomenal use case. So I think I'm more like is there a business sense to it, not just some fancy technology, right? So just like Neuralink, there was another company called Control Plus, I think, which Facebook acquired. I was seeing that company. Basically, it was like a Neuralink's version, which Lux had invested.
Okay.
Then there's a company called Sail Drone, which basically is a autonomous sail. It'll be on the seas and it'll gather data.
Oh,
it's like an autonomous UAV. It is like an autonomous sail drone.
Okay.
So these companies keep exciting stuff. But see, personally, what I like now is autonomous cars. I was in the US, but couldn't try the Waymo there. I mean, I was there, but it is just too short to try. But I think I want to next time when I go, I'll just try an autonomous car. What it feels. Fun. Fun thing. So that is something that I kind of look forward to. I think. Yeah.
Understand. Okay. So coming back to the Indian ecosystem in deep tech, so I can see Tonbo Imaging or Idea Forge or in the league space who started exporting as well. Is there any other companies you like who is into exports?
I like a lot of companies. You mentioned Tonbo, Idea Force. Today, Pixel will start doing it. Tomorrow, Agnikul will start doing it. I think all our companies will start doing right. Like Skyroot also is going to make rockets. For example, some of our companies are young, but they're having European customers potentially, right? Like Urja could potentially have a lot of European customers. So export is I actually made a list of about 5-6 companies to compare, say, look, these are all potentials to become IPO in India, in deep tech.
Oh, okay.
All that ones I've mentioned here are there in that list.
Okay. Oh, okay.
The ones which are in the top of my mind, all these companies I think have a massive potential to make IPO and also become like your Idea Forge or Tonbo Imaging. There's Netradyne if you've not heard. Even though it's incorporated there, bulk of the stuff happens here.
Okay.
Actually, my friends from my first job run a startup called Lightmetrics. I couldn't invest in them, but it's another interesting deep technology. It's like video processing it's a telematics. Like the camera that comes, that's what they do. They manufacture the camera and the algorithms to avoid accidents.
Okay.
Reduce insurance, functionality. So that's also a deep technology company
So processors will be in the camera
itself, yeah,
Okay.
and do machine learning
Okay.
and
Okay.
do all that. I think there's a lot of stuff that is happening, and if you ask me, after maybe 5 years, if you do this podcast right, we'll have at least, my guess is at least 5 IPOs and more companies which will be well recognized by the world.
Yeah.
Like I said, right, we are at 1980 Avinashi Road. Then suddenly everybody will want to buy. I think 5 years down the line, we will see those that situation like, oh, I came and I mean, I want some people to tell, oh, Vinod told me to invest money in Java Capital. I didn't invest, 5 years ago. I want somebody to tell me that.
Yeah. Okay. So these are all real business, to be honest, right? These are the only.
Absolutely.
Okay.
These are like so touch and feel,
Yeah.
and if you go to a launch pad or to
Yes.
go a factory. See, I like visiting factories.
Yes. Okay.
I like to go to a chocolate factory. Actually, I'm missing a visit to a whiskey factory tomorrow. I had a schedule, but I couldn't go.
Okay.
But I love going and seeing, how things get built.
Is it Amrut in Bangalore?
I mean, I should be.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? But yeah, I was supposed to had a chance to visit tomorrow, but I couldn't
Okay.
do. Yeah, yeah. If that answer is, I like some single malts. Yes.
Because because Ashok, who is a marketing head, is my
Oh, in Amrut?
yeah,
Very
he's my
interesting.
wife's cousin. Okay.
Then I can then go again, go
Okay.
again.
Okay.
I visited Kia's factory last
Okay.
month. The amount of automation at
Yes,
Kia's
yes.
factory is like mind blowing for me, right? I visited Volkswagen's Chakan plant once.
Oh.
See the scale of it,
Yeah.
right? Chakan is 4,000 acres. They manufacture fewer number of
Yes.
cars, but at Kia they manufacture almost 4 lakhs cars a year, and the plant size is 600 acres.
Oh.
Simply because the plant is like
Automation.
hugely automated. But the other problem, I know we are going to talk about it. I'll tell you the problem that I have in my mind is we are such a large country. If you have such a large plant or 4 lakh cars manufactured, number of employees are very limited because everything is automated. The other fundamental question to ask is what happens to people? This automation is one side is interesting in investing in technology. The counter question I keep asking is what do we do with all the people, right?
Yes.
So is another problem. I have some thoughts, but I mean, no, I'm like, we are investing in tech, right? So we need to find a way to address that problem in some way. One of the ways I keep thinking of is that universal basic income. In India, if you call universal basic income, people will think, it's some fancy Western idea. No, I think we are already doing that, right? I think, I don't know, in Tamil Nadu, what all subsidies are provided. So you get electricity subsidy,
Yes,
you get free
yes.
transportation. These are all actually, we are probably preparing for the AI, artificial intelligence or general intelligence world.
Yes.
In a way. That's the direction I think it is going in. Yeah.
Comparing to Indian IP companies where deep techs are there, so and the westernized companies. So how you feel whether we are coping up and how is the things are getting?
See, I think we should be cognitive that we are not yet there.
Yes.
That is very clear, right? Like we should not beat ourselves saying we are ready for everywhere, right?
Yes.
And they've taken years to develop, right? The industrial revolution and China had the manufacturing revolution, which we missed. And hopefully we don't miss one more revolution, which is the AI revolution. That's what we think.
Sorry to interrupt here. So what should be the reason where India missed that?
Which one? The industrial revolution?
Yes.
See, the industrial revolution, we didn't even get our own freedom, right? So the industrial revolution passed before even our freedom. So we missed that. What we could have potentially captured is the semiconductor revolution, which we missed, in a way. Now we've caught up on industry, let's say. Semiconductor, we are trying to catch up. On AI, we are lagging behind. But what is the underlying reason, where we lag behind is risk-taking ability.
Because of the education system or the mental.
See, a lot of different pieces, right? So I think you and me would have grown up eating rice from ration, all that, right? And to get anything, you had to stand in the queue. That also indicates, right, what is the basic need fulfillment first. Once you have basic needs fulfilled, then only you can even think, right? Our people didn't have time to think because you had to fend for food, kerosene, so many things, right? You are a very constrained economy. You are getting quota system to get a bike or a telephone connection, right? So how can you even think? Yeah. Steve Jobs in 1984 was picking up his phone and talking to Don Valentine saying, I want money to invest in Apple. Where was our guys with the phone, that time, or anybody with a phone to even talk, right? Nobody was there. So I think we were constrained as an economy. So our aspirations also was limited to, getting the next meal or buying the Chetak scooter or getting one telephone line. That was aspiration.
Yes.
Today, that is not aspirations. That's basic necessity. We already have that. Drinking water, we have. We have basic necessities. Once you have basic necessities, you have enough money. Then you start thinking, how do I self-actualize? And self-actualization comes when you've got your basic necessities sorted.
That's right.
Now, the question, what do you need after you realize, you want self-actualization, you need risk-taking ability.
Yes.
How does risk-taking ability comes? Is by putting money.
Yes.
You need more money. See, if you compare the risk-taking ability in US, it's about money.
Yes.
See, they will put $20 billion in AI or $100 billion in AI, but we don't have that money, right? If you don't take more risks, then you will fail lesser number of times. So more risks you take, you fail more. That means you learn one or two times and you will succeed. I think that is what is happening even in AI, for example. They are throwing money at the problem. Some one person will solve out of 100. If they solve, they'll become one big thing. Here, right, we are putting money in only 3 or 4. Then if all 4 fails, we'll be like done. So I think our ability to achieve higher success percentage and the pressure to achieve that is still there because we don't put risk money. I think one thing I can say in the podcast, and because we are recording this from Trichy, I would say all industry folks or people who made enough wealth should think of putting that back into society that we have done through philanthropy or other things. But you also should think of putting that back into innovation and startups.
Yes. Yes.
You made money, so there is a purpose, right? After a point in money, buying one more
Car or
one more
house or-
car or buying one more 10 acres in Avinashi Road doesn't make sense, right?
I know who you are eating.
I am saying after that you should put that money into startups or younger people to into innovation or encourage new businesses. You should put that money and do something more, right? For the that is creating more jobs, that will create more economy, it will create innovation, and it will also create India will become more competitive and we can take more risks.
Okay.
I think this is a good question that you asked. I could kind of weave in all the possibilities in this question.
Yes. Okay, coming back to the question.
Yeah. Risk. See, you asked me, are we at the capability level? We are not at the capability level fully yet because we don't take as many risks. That means you need risk money. Actually, that is the answer if you ask me. You need more risk money and more people to take risk, then we will catch up there slowly.
Yes. And I have one adjacent question to that because there are a lot of people in India who works as a researchers in top companies like GE or Airbus or Saffron or whatever deep tech Indian companies are there. Because I want, so I think because I worked for say 13 years and started the company because getting in, see, whether you feel that way of deep tech, right? So getting into the industry, a PhD, and they know the market already. So that pedigree, whether I want a lot of entrepreneurs from these top tier one or OEMs to start companies because that will also add more kind of deep tech startups in India.
So, Tamil, what you are saying, right, are choices people make.
Yes.
But what is missing is one more important thing is courage.
Yes, that's
So, you assume you have capital, you have risk-taking ability. Risk-taking ability is courage.
Yes.
A lot of folks that you spoke about now who are working in these large companies, right?
And they are 35 plus.
Yeah, they don't have the courage, right? So that is also again coming from our own mindset, right?
Mindset.
How many people can take that risk is the question, right? And have they grown up in an environment they're allowed to take risk? Or you are constrained saying, okay, I got my college, then I have to work for a job, then get married, have 2 gigs, buy a house. This is a classic Indian pattern. I'm saying US also this pattern exists.
Yes.
But there are also enough number of people who are willing to take risks. So we need the tier one companies who are working in those companies that you mentioned. At some point, they should think, look, if I go out, I'll get money. Nobody should shame me for failing in the company.
That's
the thing. Failure. I have failed, right? If you look at my
because of peer pressure, maybe.
Exactly, peer pressure, family pressure.
Okay.
I have failed multiple times in a way, right? Like I told you, I did a startup, and that Just Books also, right? A massive opportunity, but didn't make phenomenal things out of it. But also failure needs some support systems, I feel. I think I was fortunate that, I think my parents didn't understand what the hell I was doing. Which way?
Till now?
They, I don't know how much they understand what I do, but they know that he keeps traveling. He talks to founders or some companies. I see if we put an Agnikul video, they think, okay, nice. That's all they will know, right? See, my parents understand that.
Okay.
My wife understands what I'm trying to do, but she also knows this is a risky business. She understands, but she's still like, okay, that's fine. There's a support system. My kids understand, what
Okay.
I'm trying to do to an
Way
extent.
better.
They way better.
Yeah.
So that is the journey of, our own lives in the Indian post-freedom movement, I think. More people understand, they'll allow you to take risks. Today, right, pressure to not allow kids to take risk, right, to make their own decisions. Instead, parents telling, you do this, right, is an example of not allowing kids to make decisions also, right? So we have to evolve. I think now we are slowly evolving. That is why different cities are evolving at different
Exactly.
paces.
Yes.
That's coming from a cultural angle also, saying, this city allows you to pursue risk and independence a little more compared to another city.
Yes.
So that's why, some cities become really big
Yeah.
in terms of
Because of the peers, obviously.
because of peers and also where all the societal
Yes.
pressures that comes into play.
Because I could relate. Because even if I started my frigate, even I cannot convince my colleague to come in.
Yeah.
Because even I took the risk. Just later on, if I ask them to come, they are not coming. So that's a kind of mindset they are having right now.
Yeah.
And added to that, so I want. So what are the spaces you are looking at where it's still no one is seen that far in deep tech?
I think there's lots of interesting spaces that's emerging. One, because of AI, right? You can synthesize proteins using AI. That's happening.
Oh.
You can even synthesize advanced materials with characteristics possibilities. That's starting to happen. So advanced materials, synthetics. Then we're looking at quantum computing. I don't think so we'll get a breakthrough straight away, but quantum is moving one step at a time. So they're starting to see some interesting opportunities. Then if you look at even climate, right, I think we've still not found all the solutions, right?
Yes.
We are discovering the problems in the first place. We will find, for example, why don't you put data centers in the space? I was just reading today morning in the train. See, power is abundant in space, right? You put solar, you get maximum power, you take it. But question is launch cost.
Yes.
If you bring down the launch cost of to a lower number, right? You don't need to have data centers here.
Okay.
Oh, I'll tell you an interesting stat, right? I've been telling to other people also. Every time you use a chat GPT query, right? Every 10 queries costs half a liter of water.
Oh. Okay.
And the energy consumption again. And here, because the data centers are on the ground, as AI keeps developing, every time we make a query, right? Imagine you're using half a liter of water somewhere, somebody's cooling the servers down.
Yes.
Which is not going to be sustainable, right?
Yes.
So you need to find solutions for how do you sustain data centers?
Okay.
Do you send it up space? Do you send it underground? Or do you develop better chips, for example, like Lightspeed, right? In our portfolio.
Yeah.
It has high speed communication.
Yes.
It basically reduces the energy consumption. So everywhere you have to start optimizing, right? So those are all possible opportunities for us as the society moves.
So the optimization should be in the processes.
In the processes, energy saving, you will develop a lot of IPs.
So again, one more question on that. Since you spoke about the orbit, how about LEO orbit? How it is happening?
LEO orbit, people are populating, right? Okay. SpaceX has 80,000 satellites in that, right? Like everybody's putting the satellites.
India will start.
India has Navik, which is going on. That is for geo thing. But Indian companies will start launching satellites. Our own companies, right? Like a Satleo will start launching satellites. So I think number of companies launching satellites will only go up exponentially. It will become like a Uber. Saying it's like for satellites, right? It will be like Uber. I think the LEO space will get occupied. Whoever goes first gets the best slot.
Yes.
Best parking slot there.
That's it.
So satellite, I anticipate, everybody will start launching. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someday, somebody puts a satellite for themselves also.
Yes.
It's possible. You never know. So, but I'm just saying, some big guys will say, look, I want an exclusive data center up in the space, right? Imagine you go to some Seychelles island and I become citizen there and put my satellite up there and I have my data separate. I think nobody will control and see what am I even doing with the data center.
Like,
all those are
like
possible.
Nityananda city.
Yeah, Nityananda. Yeah. So I think the vivid imagination, lots of stuff is possible in a way. And mobility also, right? Like I'm like very excited. I know we have one company called ePlane in the portfolio. But why should I, for example, right? It took me 4 hours from Coimbatore to Trichy today, right? When I traveled. Imagine the same
And you
distance.
don't have flights also for this
There is,
short term.
yeah, I was actually surprised because you can do it in like 20 minutes flight, somebody would pay for it, right?
Yes,
Why
yes,
do we need to wait
definitely.
4 hours? Honestly speaking, I checked other options, all that. This was the best option to come in the morning, right? So if I had an e-plane kind of a thing, and if the airspace management becomes way better and these becomes flyable, all that, right? And it'll be 25 minutes to come to Trichy to Coimbatore. Imagine I don't need to live in dense cities. You can live wherever you have a farm. That's like my imagination, right?
Yeah,
Then
that
you have nice breathable air, like
yeah.
at 25,
World will
26,
move
8.
towards that eventually.
And that is a mobility imagination which started with this, but there are so many things you could do around it.
Yes, yes,
Once people change, right, lifestyles, then you will find new solutions to them.
yes, yes.
Like you probably will start doing Swiggy deliveries through them.
Yeah,
Even if it takes 10 minutes, but if you're paying for the cost and bulk, it might work.
exactly.
You'd start doing all sorts of stuff which are very different. You might do homeschooling for all you know. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
kids will go to school in flying
yeah.
taxis. So the possibilities are immense. The pollution will reduce, mobility will reduce. Maybe our lives will be better, is my sense.
And so
Yeah, it improves lives. I think personally that's also something, whatever we do in any company, be it Frigate or any investment, right? I also feel like we impact people's lives.
exactly, that's what.
And anything that we invest in has a direct impact on people's lives. It improves something or the other of somebody's life, right? So I think that also gives you a
At the end of the
satisfaction.
day, that's a business. That's all about entrepreneurship.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
not about earning money.
Yeah, money comes as a
Yeah.
consequence,
Yes,
is what
yes,
I
yes.
feel.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. So almost we are coming to the end part, right? So one last before, right? So if you are 25 right now, and if you are thinking of a deep tech startup, which one you are looking into, and you want, if you are an entrepreneur, what kind of startups you will be doing right now?
I think if I'm 25 years now, right, I would be thinking, what will happen to if general intelligence arrives? When I say general intelligence, assume we've achieved whatever is possible. Computers can run on its own and they have human level of intelligence. That's what is general intelligence or singularity at some point. I feel if we get to that, I want to know what problems can we solve. If we achieve that, what happens to all the human beings now? What do they do? How do we provide mechanisms for them? What resources can we do? Basically, the deep tech is disrupting everything there.
Yes.
I want to know how do we solve those problems. Actually, that is a problem which is like, I don't know, is it a deep tech problem? It's a deep human problem for me. How do you solve that? There will be solutions, I'm sure. We are ingenious creatures. When we come to that problem point, right, we will get
Definitely
and
identify a
we'll
solution.
identify solutions for that, which is possible. That's what I keep thinking.
Okay.
If we get so much artificial intelligence coming in, how do you
Then
solve
where
the
that
human
human
layer?
intelligence go?
Correct. We have to figure out.
Yes.
I think that's something, I would sit and, think and solve. I spend a lot of time using these AI tools today. I would love to see, where will that lead to some answers, for example. And the other, yeah, I'll tell you about the other things. Yeah, continue.
So one mistake you feel first time deep tech founders make in India. See, because I have a lot of PMs in LinkedIn. Okay, so I am trying to do this. I am trying to do, like, it's more of a college project.
Correct.
So, uh, how you kind of, what's the one kind of an advice, because you are one of the leading VCs of deep tech in India. So because ours is a manufacturing podcast and ours is a manufacturing company, there are a lot of people who sees this. So what is the one idea? So who will be into working, or who will be a student or someone like that? One mistake you should not do if you are into deep tech.
I think, a lot of mistakes you should not do. See, success comes by,
That I know.
correct, success comes by doing a lot of
Mistakes.
but then you need to have the ability to
Yes.
correct it also, right? See, fundamentally, right, don't get enamored by technology only, right? If you are running a business, you're a founder, you need to think of all the other parts also, right? We are not trying to, we're not a research project again, right? We should be very clear in our head. What am I building? Is that value to someone else?
Someone can get it.
Get it, and can they pay for it, right? If you don't think about that, see, a lot of times people come saying, I have this crazy exciting problem. If it's a research project, it is a research project. If you are wanting to start a business means you need to have an idea, solution, problem. Then you need to also know how to make money, right? That's only it's a business, right? You can't say I have a crazy idea. I want to launch into exospace, so give me money, right? That's not going to work, right? It has to come around these circles. See, you can have some moonshot ideas like Elon Musk, right? But Elon Musk says, I want to go to Mars. When he says, people believe for
Yes,
some
yes.
reason, right? But if somebody else says, they may not believe it. So you need to come to a point where it's practically possible
Exactly. Yes.
to do the business. That's when you need. So the first thing is, spend a lot of time before you start. Don't spend time after starting. Before what you choose to do, spend a lot of time. 6 months you take, you said, so, or 1 year you take, you spend time researching the idea, analyzing the market, talking to people. Once you jump in, right, never question the idea.
Yes.
It's over. Once you jump in, execute for at least like 1 year. If you don't do even for 1 year, right, then you don't give yourself enough benefit of doubt also. You should give yourself, right, oh, okay, I spent a year. Then if it's not working, then I will go and do figure something else. A lot of people, right, they jump into the idea. In 2-3 months, they expect, the world will change. It's not going to change. So you need to be persistent. That's the second thing, right? If you persist only, it happens. So I've been doing like for like 10 years of investing, right? I have to do another 10 years to be called even successful, is what I think.
Exactly.
I don't think so. Anybody thinks, I'm like successful deep tech
If
VC.
if we don't perform, then
People will not do so. You have to keep performing, or you have to keep doing it for a really long time. Then it accumulates. Then persistence is really as a character important.
yes.
Then make sure that you are in the right idea and the business. Spend time to choose that. You do those two things, and then how do you choose your co-founders also matter. Don't choose people whom you just meet in an event.
Yeah.
You should have spent at least 3-4 years working with them, or know them through college or some other way, at least 3-4-5 years. Else, quickly problems will come between co-founders, and that's a distraction. Then you end up losing time on that.
Yes.
Which happens in any business. But you see that risk is there, but at least try and think and see, avoid just randomly choosing people as co-founders.
Yes.
That's something to think of.
So I guess this is the answer for founding a company.
Founding companies anyway. It's exactly. See, in deep tech, right,
it's a product.
It's a product at the end of the day, but you need to have subject matter knowledge, not just this knowledge. You need to have subject matter knowledge also to do innovation there. Yeah.
Okay. So we are coming to the final stage, and let's have some fun here, right? So how we know this person as a person, who you are. So how you spend your time and about your family or
Yeah. So I have 2 kids. I'm in Bangalore. I live with my parents, live together. My diversions are, if you ask me, when I get a lot of under pressure doing what I'm doing every day in the morning till evening, which is largely to do with Java Capital. I go for these Tindi walks in Bangalore. I just go to these breakfast places with a group there, or some groups will organize. You go to 5 different places and you eat little in all 5 different places with some 20 people together.
Wow.
So you taste. It's a phenomenal stress buster for me. So I do these Tindi walks with other people in Bangalore. That's one nice.
What's the name? Tindi walks.
Tindi means breakfast.
Okay.
Tindi
walks.
Tindi walk.
Okay, so you kind of
walk and eat, walk, burn calories.
Okay.
Off late, I've picked up on pickleball, and I'm looking at your videos on fitness. I've started doing some planks and other things to keep myself fit. Otherwise, I just love spend time with my kids and family. And the last thing also, which is deeply interested, I would say, is we have a small farm near Mysore, where we grow organic fruits and all that, just largely for family and consumption. So that gives me another angle. When I talk about climate and AQI, I grow trees. I mean, the goal was for me to, take a barren piece of land and, compensate for my own carbon footprint or my family's carbon footprint, which is what we have done there.
That's how we are giving back to
Earth also. So that is something I've been doing for the last 4-5 years. It's growing. I think, I'll be able to compensate all the carbon footprint. At least I'm incurring by traveling to
many places.
many places, right? And I track my flights diligently, every flight, so that I can go back and check, roughly what is the footprint at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With this, we have finally conclude this one of the excited sessions I ever had, because I had a lot of learning, because that's the one reason I used to host a lot of hosts. Okay. So hope you enjoyed. So tell me how you feel, Vinod.
Hey, thanks. This is exciting. I think we spoke about a lot of new questions that I've not answered because I've done a bunch of podcasts. But good to tell the world a little bit about here and there what you're trying to do, right? I think I had fun, and hopefully people who are listening also have fun. And please support startups wherever you are, in some form or the other, including Frigate and all our portfolio companies. And as also, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Frigate Manufacturing.
Like, subscribe, and have fun listening to Frigate Manufacturing. Yeah.